We can look at economics from a racial and ethnic perspective too. The Census Bureau statistics show us that Asians are better off than other ethnic or racial minorities, and that African American and Hispanic middle-class families are on the rise, but have not caught up to non-Hispanic white middle-class families. At the same time, African American, Latinos, and Native Americans remain the poorest and most disadvantaged of all groups in the U.S. There are very few changes in the rate difference of economic disadvantage of these different racial and ethnic groups over time. Newman points out also the idea of life structure and poverty, though he does not specifically use that label. What I mean by life structure is that we learn to do things on a daily basis, depending on the tasks that we have to complete and engage in. If you have a job, there's a pattern of getting ready for work, going to work, getting home, taking care of household chores, personal time with family or friends. You pattern it all around work, for the most part. But as Newman points out, those without a steady income fall into irregular and incoherent lifestyles, lacking expectations and goals. And then the children of those chronically unemployed or sporadically unemployed lack lessons in personal efficacy and lack disciplined routines that are part of households characterized by steady employment. In other words, children from unemployed households don't have the need and necessity to have as much structure in their lives because their parents don't have that much structure. And some of the child development researchers say that children entering kindergarten that come from homes that have little structure, such as when there are no employed adults in the household, lack the understanding that tasks have a finite timeline, i.e. that now you're focusing on a new task and engaging in it, and then there's a stopping time for that task. Just think about the time limits that working parents have to deal with, which forces them to make sure Johnny gets up in the morning, gets breakfast, gets dressed, goes off to daycare, or whatever is the child care arrangement. That's a lesson the child learns too, that X, Y, and Z has to get done in a finite time frame. The research is a little speculative as to whether lack of a parent's employment has that much impact on very young children, but there is at least some indication that this could be at play. Newman points out the differing attitudes towards immigration, depending on economic circumstances and the need for labor in this country. Immigrants are welcomed into the country when the labor supply is short. When the railroads were built in the 1800s and the roads in the 1900s, there was a much more liberal attitude towards immigrants. Immigrants tend to take unwanted jobs, such as being migrant farmers, and take menial jobs, such as landscaping, housework, and restaurant work, things that many American workers do not want to do. The U.S. public has mixed feelings about immigrant workers. The point that many that are opposed to immigration do not want to grapple with is that immigrants fill a labor niche that might be impossible to otherwise fill without having great increases in the cost of essential items like food production.